time. Because when we start the Moby Dick streams, we gotta ensure we don't get the VOD taken down. Because I don't want to read this aloud twice. I'm probably going to anyway. Howdy y'all, Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. And tonight we are going to be reading Moby Dick while we do some grindy tasks on stream. Let's go ahead and pop out that chat there so I can read it while I read the novel. How are y'all doing today? You ready to have a chill Saturday night reading an adventurous book about whale hunting? I'm not sure how chill this is actually going to be. We're going to find out, though. We're going to find out. We've got to get all the stream setup done before we can actually start reading the book. Some of that stream setup is in-game. Like, for example, I need to get my lights sorted. We don't need a bunch of lights in my inventory while I'm trying to gather materials. So, okay. Let's sort some of this out. The logs and the lights can go in here. Okay, so yeah, so we're gonna put logs in with these logs. Resin can go with the pale oak. Okay, this can go in there. Welcome, Miss Gold Fox. Welcome, Jen K. Welcome, Mo20. Welcome, Josiah Roland. Let's see what else is going on. Welcome, Iconic Anemone. Wanderer Mass says always helps make my Saturdays more chill. Welcome, Kai Fram. Welcome, Goofy Red. Welcome, Zen Figment. Meanwhile, let's make sure that I've got the proper chat open for the Discord. Welcome, Centauratron and Audit They. Was anybody just over at Cub Fans? I was just over at Cub Fans watching him play Satisfactory. It's a lot of fun. If you aren't already following Cub, you can do so at twitch.tv/CubFan. Yeah, it's funny because I was just setting up the stream and he goes, "Oh no, none of my friends are online. There's no one to raid." And I was like, I'm too busy setting up my stream to tell him to hold on, bud, just 6 more minutes. But no, we do not coordinate that stuff at all. But yeah, no, I was enjoying watching a lot of my friends stream today. I had a lot to get done. B000100 had an amazing stream today. I watched like basically the whole thing in the background. And that was what my family had on the big TV while we were getting a bunch of Christmas decorations ready. So we got some garland and we got command hooks and we've been hanging that and doing a bunch of other stuff all over the apartment today. Other things we did today. We went to Goodwill because my daughter wanted some new clothes. And she's like in a, she wants very particular new clothes phase, which is good for kids when they're creating, you know, how they want to show themselves to the world. Which is like, I want to look at Goodwill for certain types of clothes. I'm not going to go into detail. This isn't a story about her. This is a story about a shirt that I found for myself. And I'm actually wearing it right now. You can't see it yet. But when the camera gets bigger, I'm going to show this to y'all. I think y'all are going to get a kick out of this. This was one of those, like, I saw it and I had to cackle. It did cost $6. But Badger's mother had sent Badger some money to buy Corinne and I gifts on her behalf. And so Badger picked up Corinne's Goodwill shopping spree and my single article of clothing. So I'd be like, you know, if you guys want to help me get that $6 back, but don't worry, this was a gift. But yeah. Okay, what are we doing? I posted the tipping link. I greeted everybody. We need to empty enough of our inventory that we can actually do the stuff we want to do. Once we start reading the novel, it's going to be hard for me to do any inventory management, really. So we need to do all of that first. And yeah, because Badger's mom never had a grandkid before, so it's kind of like, I don't know. Here's some money. Take her into the mall or something. Okay, so we're going to grab some nom 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 noms. Nom nom noms. Okay, we don't have a pickaxe. We do have a pickaxe. Okay. So let's get the toolbox back out then, because we are going to need that later. We're going to put the axe away for right now. We're going to keep the shovel. Green screen needs to go there, because that's where my chroma... I'm being chroma down here in slot 9, where I'm putting the hot in the hotbar. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Got that properly set up now. Okay, we have food. We have... Did we get the full stack of fireworks? No, we consolidated, but we did not grab. That stays in slot 9. Okay. So, here we go. Let's find... Next thing we got to do, we got to get our pin with our Project Gutenberg thing. What we're reading... We're either on Chapter 90 or Chapter 91, where the Pequod meets the Rosebud. Let's see what chapter that is. Chapter 91, the Pequod meets the Rosebud. So I need to update the what we're reading link here and post that to both Twitch chat and Discord and YouTube. Howdy, Velvet Rabbit. Red Velvet Rabbit. Hope you're having a fantastic time. I mean, I spent a lot of... I say I spent a lot of money. I spent most of the money that I had when I had almost no money at the thrift store when I was her age, picking out clothes for myself so that I could pick styles that my parents might be like, what? I'm not going to spend, you know, 30 bucks on that. You'll never wear it. It's like, that's okay, because I'm spending my own money, and it's $4 or $3 or $2, you know? So, yeah, kids can experiment more with clothes when they're secondhand and don't cost much. I'm fine with it. Makes sense to me. Okay. Red Velvet Rabbit said I watched a 12-hour racing stream. Awesome. Yeah, I used to like the Penny Arcade Racing League streams, where they would simulate, like, racing sims, VR games, type of things. Not all of them were VR. Some people had VR setups, but I don't think it was mandatory. Okay. Did I pin the links properly? I'm realizing I forgot to check. Yeah, manually unpinned or at the end of the stream. Oh, the other thing I need to do is I need to, rather than opening and closing this bottle every time, I need to pour this into a cup. So then I can just lift the cup. Okay, I have... For some reason, they stopped selling Sundrop in 2-liter bottles at the grocery stores that I go to. I need to find a better grocery. They had the 20-ounce bottles on sale, though. So I bought a few 6-packs. Yeah, the 20-ounce bottles, they were like... It was some sort of insane sale, too. Where it's like either stupid expensive or 6-packs of 20-ounce bottles for almost nothing. So it's just like I'm loading up the cart with a bunch of 6-packs of Sundrop. Okay. Jen K says, as I've gotten older, I prefer thrift over buying new. The only time I buy new is when I can't find my size at the thrift. I have so many clothes at this point. Now that I've stopped growing, I don't really need to buy a lot of clothes. So, yeah. I've become the math problem in textbooks. I guess so. Okay. So, we need to start placing or removing blocks. Which would we prefer to do? I think placing gravel might be a good start, because we have a lot of gravel to place. Okay, so we're going to hit the replay mod marker. And I think we're going to get going. Did I post the tipping link? I did post the tipping link. Okay. Just as a reminder, once I actually start reading, I don't usually interrupt a middle of a chapter until we've hit the end of that chapter. Sometimes for really long chapters, I'll take a break in the middle, but yeah. So if your tip rolls in the middle of the chapter, don't be upset. If it takes a few minutes, please be patient with me. I will say, though, I am wearing the new piece of clothing that I got at the thrift store today. Y'all can't see it yet because the camera is so small, but I think that y'all are going to enjoy this. I saw this and I was like, I need to get that for the stream. And then we got home, we washed the clothes, and I asked Badger, I was like, okay, does everything we bought go in the dryer? And Badger's like, everything except for your thing. And I'm like, great. And I just threw it on. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cold. It's like, Badger's like, of course it is. It's soaking wet. And I'm like, this, if it dries while I wear it, it'll conform to my body better. And Badger had a fun time with that. Yeah. Although no hugs when you're wearing something soaking wet. Badger did not think that part was quite as well. No, it was funny, but it was definitely like, what? Ah! Okay. Where were we? Chapter 91 of Moby Dick, or the Whale, by Herman Melville. The Pequod meets the Rosebud.
In vain it was to rake for ambergris in the paunch of this leviathan, insufferable fetter, denying not inquiry.
Sir T. Brown, V.E. It was a week or two after the last whaling scene recounted, and when we were slowly sailing over a sleepy, vapory midday sea, that the many noses on the Pequod's deck proved more vigilant discoverers than the 3 pairs of eyes aloft. A peculiar and not very pleasant smell was smelt in the sea. "I'll bet something now," said Stubb, "that somewhere hereabouts are some of those drugged whales we tickled the other day. I thought they would keel up before long." Presently, the vapors in advance slid aside, and there, in the distance, lay a ship, whose furled sails betokened that some sort of whale must be alongside. As we glided nearer, the stranger showed French colors from its peak, and by the eddying cloud of vulture sea fowl that circled and hovered and swooped around him, it was plain that the whale alongside must be what the fishermen call a blasted whale. That is, a whale that has died unmolested at sea, and so floated an unappropriated corpse. It may well be conceived what an unsavory odor such a mass must exhale, worse than an Assyrian city in the plague, when the living are incompetent to bury the departed. So intolerable indeed is it regarded by some that no cupidity could persuade them to moor alongside of it. Yet there are those who will still do it, notwithstanding the fact that the oil obtained from such subjects is of a very inferior quality, and by no means of the nature of a tar of rose. Coming still nearer, with the expiring breeze, we saw that the Frenchman had a second whale alongside. And this second whale seemed even more of a nosegay than the first. In truth, it turned out to be one of those problematical whales that seem to dry up and die with a sort of prodigious dyspepsia or indigestion, leaving their defunct bodies almost bereft of anything like oil. Nevertheless, in the proper place, we shall see that no knowing fisherman will ever turn up his nose at such a whale as this, however he may shun blasted whales in general. The Pequod had now swept so nigh to the stranger that Stubb vowed he recognized his cutting spade pole entangled in the lines that were knotted round the tail. of one of these whales. "There's a pretty fella now," he banteringly laughed, standing in the ship's bows. "There's a jackal for you. I well know that these crapos of Frenchmen are but poor devils in the fishery, sometimes lowering their boats for breakers, mistaking them for sperm whale spouts, yes, and sometimes failing from their port with their hold full of boxes of tallow candles and cases of snuffers, foreseeing that all the oil they get won't be enough to dip the captain's wick into. We all know these things. But look ye, here's a crapo that is content with our leavings, the drugged whale there. And is content, too, with scraping the dry bones of that other precious fish he has there. Poor devil. I say, pass round a hat, someone, and let's make him a present of a little oil, for charity's sake. For what oil he'll get from that drugged whale there wouldn't be fit to burn in a jail, no, not in a condemned cell. And as for the other whale, why, I'll agree to get more oil by chopping up and trying out these masts of ours than he'll get from that bundle of bones. Though, now that I think on it, it may contain something worth a good deal more than oil, yes, ambergris. I wonder now if our old man has thought of that. It's worth trying, yes, I'm for it." And, so saying, he started for the quarterdeck. By this time, the faint air had become a complete calm, so that whether or no the Pequod was now fairly entrapped in the smell, with no hope of escaping, except by its breezing up again. Issuing from the cabin, Stubb now called his boat's crew and pulled off for the stranger. Drawing across her bow, he perceived that in accordance with the fanciful French taste, the upper part of her sternpiece was carved in the likeness of a huge drooping stalk, painted green, and for thorns had copper spikes projecting from it here and there, the whole terminating in a symmetrical folded bulb of a bright red color. Upon her headboards, in large gilt letters, he read "Bouton de Rose," rose button, or rosebud, and this was the romantic name of this aromatic ship. Though Stubb did not understand the bouton part of the inscription, yet the word rose and the bulbous figurehead put together sufficiently explained the whole to him. "A wooden rosebud, eh?" he cried, with his hand to his nose. "That'll do very well, but how like all creation it smells." Now, in order to hold direct communication with the people on deck, he had to put round the bows to the starboard side, and thus come close to the blasted whale, and so talk over it. Arrived then at this spot, with one hand still to his nose, he bawled, "Bouton de Rose, ahoy! Are there any of you Bouton de Roses that speak English?" "Yes," rejoined a Guernsey man from the bulwarks. Who turned out to be the chief mate. "Well, then, my Bouton de Rosebud, have you seen the white whale?" "What whale?" "The white whale, sperm whale, Moby Dick. Have you seen him?" "Never heard of such a whale. Catch a lot bunch. White whale, no." "Very good, then. Goodbye now. And I'll call again in a minute." Then, rapidly pulling back toward the Pequod, and seeing Ahab leaning over the quarter-deck railing, awaiting his report, he molded his 2 hands into a trumpet and shouted, "No, sir, no!" Upon which Ahab retired, and Stubb returned to the Frenchman. He now perceived that the Guernseyman, who had just gotten to the chains, was using a cutting spade, had slung his nose in a sort of bag. "What's the matter with your nose there? Broke it?" "I wish it was so broken that I didn't have any nose at all," answered the Guernsey man, who did not seem to relish the job he had very much. "What are you holding yours for?" "Oh, nothing. It's a wax nose. I have to hold it on. Fine day, ain't it? Here, rather, gardeny, I should say. Throw us a bunch of posies, will ya, bouton de rose?" "What in the devil's name do you want here?" roared the Guernseyman, flying into a sudden passion. "Oh, keep cool, cool. Yes, that's the word. Why don't you pack those whales in ice while you're working on them? But, joking aside, though, do you know, Rosebud, it's all nonsense to try to get oil out of such whales. For that dried-up one there, he hasn't a gill in his whole carcass." "I know that well enough, but do you see, the captain here won't believe it. This is his first voyage. He was a cologne manufacturer before, but come aboard, and mayhap he'll believe you, if he won't me, and so I'll get out of this dirty scrape." "Anything to oblige ye, my sweet and pleasant fellow," rejoined Stubb, and with that he soon mounted to the deck. There, a queer scene presented itself. The sailors, in tasseled capes of red worsted, were getting the heavy tackles in readiness for the whales. But they worked rather slow and talked very fast, and seemed in anything but good humor. All their noses upwardly projected from their faces like so many jib booms. Now and then pairs of them would drop their work and run up to the masthead to get some fresh air. Soon thinking they would catch the plague, dipped oakum in coal tar, and at intervals held it to their nostrils. Others, having broken the stems of their pipes almost short off at the bowl, were vigorously huffing tobacco smoke, such that it continuously filled their olfactories. Stubb was struck by a shower of outcries and anathemas proceeding from the captain's roundhouse abaft, and, looking in that direction, saw a fiery face thrust from behind the door, which was held ajar from within. This was the tormented surgeon, who, after in vain remonstrating against the proceedings of the day, had betaken himself to the captain's roundhouse, cabinet, as he called it, to avoid the pest, but still could not help yelling out his entreaties and indignations at times. Marking all this, Stubb argued well for his scheme, and, turning to the Guernseyman, had a little chat with him, during which the stranger mate expressed his detestation of his captain as a conceited ignoramus, who had brought them all into so unsavory and unprofitable a pickle. Sounding him carefully, Stubb further perceived that the Guernseyman had not the slightest suspicion concerning the Ambergris. He therefore held peace on that head, but otherwise was quite frank and confidential with him, so that the two quickly concocted a little plan for both circumventing and satirizing the captain, without his at all dreaming of distrusting their sincerity. According to this little plan of theirs, the Guernseyman, under cover of an interpreter's office, was to tell the captain what he pleased, but as coming from Stubb. And as for Stubb, he was to utter any nonsense that should come uppermost to him during the interview. By the time their destined victim appeared from his cabin, By this time, their destined victim appeared from his cabin. He was a small and dark but rather delicate-looking man for a sea captain, with large whiskers and mustache. However, he wore a red cotton velvet vest with watch seals at his side. To this gentleman, Stubb was now politely introduced by the Guernseyman, who at once ostentatiously put on the aspect of interpreting between them. "What shall I say to him first?" said he. "Why," said Stubb, eyeing the velvet vest and the watch and seals, "you may as well begin by telling him he looks sort of babyish to me, though I don't pretend to be a judge." Okay. See, there are people that are judges who determine if people are babies. Okay, I'm just taking a second. This is not the text. I'm now commenting on the text. If you can't tell, this is Joe Hills talking. We're taking a break to point out that Stubb knows that a judge has many jobs, many roles in his office, but one of them is to determine whether or not someone is a baby or looks like a baby. Okay? This is a completely reasonable line of argument in any court, clearly. And I am once more vindicated. It's been a huge week for Joe Hills. Huge week for Joe Hills in terms of vindications. Yeah, I need to take this to the next Hermit meeting. Okay. So, anyway, let's do a refresh, see if we've missed any tips. I really want to show you guys this clothing I bought. But yeah, camera is way too small yet. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. We are currently $20 away from the first face camera expansion milestone. Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, boy. Jill Jackson, woo! Are you for real? Tips 20 and says, "Watchmen babies in crawling court." Okay, thank you very much, Jill Jackson. Woo, you are for real. But yeah. Chalice Puma Sway says, "Ooh, red tasseled caps." But yeah, for anybody who's just coming in and is like, what are we doing? I do really grindy Minecraft tasks while I read novels. Last season we read Dracula. This season we're reading Moby Dick. So yeah, that is what we are up to. Welcome to Mintus. We are in the middle of chapter 91. This is a longer chapter, so we're taking a mid-chapter break because Stubb just mentioned that somebody looks like a baby, but he's not a judge, so he can't evaluate that. Why is my phone making noise? Oh, because I got separated from Badger at the store, and I wanted to make sure that if Badger called and was like, "Wait, where are you?" I would be like, "Oh, I will bring the cart back this way." Yeah, we went to a lot of stores today. Goodwill was one of them, where we got the clothing that I was talking about. We went to a craft store, who is not a sponsor. So I'm not going to say the name of the store. I will say it was not Hobby Lobby, because we don't support companies that support ISIS in this house. But, yeah. Also, I have a degree in history, and if your whole thing is, like, smuggling artifacts, like, no. Okay. But, yeah, we went to a craft store, and we got a bunch of, like, really nice plastic garland that was marked down significantly. It was, like, 70% off, because we waited so close to Christmas. Normally, we would do fresh pine garland, but Badger's allergic to pine, so we went for artificial stuff. And yeah, 70% off goes a long way. Stuff like that. But okay, that chime was actually to let me know that a tip just rolled in from Miss Gold Fox, who says, I want to see Expand Joe, and tips 60. So here we go. 10 gets us one face camera expansion milestone, 30 gets us a second, 50 gets us a third, and then 60 gets us halfway to another. So let's get all three of those in there. Please direct your attention to slot 9 where I'm putting the hot in the hot bar so I can say howdy y'all. Grow Hills here, expanding as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. D-da-dee-da-dee, D-da-dee-da-dee-dee-dee. And then numero dos, even larger Joe, la-da-da-da. Numero tres, even larger face, la-da-da-da. Okay, so I think you guys are going to love this. It's a sweater crop top. Ta-da! I'm actually wearing it over my other tank top. It's chroma green. Ta-da! But I'm so warm. It's the best. It's the best. I'm so warm. But yeah, so I got this sweater, this chroma green sweater crop top out of the washing machine soaking wet and was wearing it around the house while helping decorate for Christmas. So it would conform to my body because it's kind of small. Chill Jackson says, woo, looks great. Question mark. But yeah. If we were to temporarily disable the chroma filter here. Let's see, how do I do that? Ta-da! Can you guys see that? So yeah, it cuts off right here, whereas the tank top goes down a lot lower. Little twirl. Fashion. But yeah, this will keep me warm in the winter while I'm streaming. Audit They says, "Oh, that's amazing." Centurtron says, "Why aren't I surprised that's something you somehow found?" Champagne Jane says, "Love it." Jemberg TV says, "OMG." Miss Gold Fox says, "It looks amazing." Alicia Confucius says, "Beautiful." Red Velvet Rabbit says, "Very cute. I actually have one kind of like it." Awesome. Yeah, it's actually keeping me super warm. I really like it. Because, like, I have other things that I can wear in the winter, but they all, like, really change the visual look. But this just perfectly, it just perfectly goes with what I would normally wear, you know? And now when I go to conventions in the winter, like, PAX Unplugged and stuff in Philly, which is cold in December, you know, I can wear this on the show floor. And I'll be easily recognizable. Big Bratz vibes, says Jill Jackson. Well, yeah. If y'all are enjoying this fashion show, just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/showhills and YouTube Super Chat. And the fantastic Miss Gold Fox left us $10 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. So thank you again to Miss Gold Fox. So there you go. I'm actually thinking I need to start working out again so I can have some good abs to show off with this thing. Because, like, back when I was doing ROTC, the military is very big on physical fitness. And I was actually very physically fit. And after I got sick, I was just kind of like, well, I'm never going to be in that good a shape again. Why even bother? But now I have an answer. So I can look good in a chroma green sweater crop top. Okay? So, yeah. I'll have to get on that. Did we leave any gravel in this one? Yeah, there. Jill Jackson says, "Just bought myself Car Wars when I was out Unplugged." Oh, did you have a fun time? Did you meet up with NJ and any of the other viewers there, Jill Jackson? Because I know NJ and a few other people from the Discord we're going to be at Unplugged. I didn't go this year, so I didn't really get involved. But yeah, I am very happy with this purchase. So yeah, so my mother-in-law was kind enough to purchase this through Badger. All of Corinne's clothes she has to wait until Christmas for, but I was allowed to wear this for the stream because it's amazing, and I wanted to show it off immediately. That's fair, Jill Jackson. Yeah, next time. So when I usually go to PAX Unplugged, this year was crazy because of the wedding and honeymoon and all of the medical stuff and the dental stuff. We've just had a lot of expenses this year that we wouldn't have in a normal year, so I'm hoping to get back there in the future. Especially because I think next time it's like over Thanksgiving week or something. I'll have to look at the calendar exactly, but it might be easier for us to get to and do Thanksgiving up there. Bum 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 da da dun da da dun. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving. Yeah, so we might be able to figure out a way to make that work. Ever says, went this year for the first time, had a blast, felt one day was not enough. Yeah, I usually try to go for all three if I can. Since it's a long trip up to Philly for me, but yeah. Okay. Jill Jackson says, definitely want to play a few games of Yazabah's Bed and Breakfast there next year. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, just as a reminder, folks, your tips are part of what make me traveling to hang out with y'all at conventions possible. I'm not going to shake down Jill Jackson again, who's already given 10. Thank you again for that earlier, Jill Jackson. But yeah, anybody else who enjoys me traveling, the only thing stopping me is money, really. I have a very strong desire to go out there and hang out with y'all at as many conventions as possible. It is one of the best parts of this job, and this job is already pretty great. So, yeah. If y'all would be so kind, I would definitely appreciate any help y'all want to provide toward that. Okay. We need to get back to Moby Dick, though, because I am placing a lot of blocks. We're going to run out of blocks to place before I finish this chapter, if I'm not careful. So, we were reading chapter 91, The Pequod and the Rosebud. And Stubb and this particular sailor from the Rosebud are doing a little interpretive fun with the captain of the Rosebud. Eric says, just jumping in to ask how far we are in Moby Dick. We're in the middle of chapter 91, Eric. I was just taking a break from reading that because it's a longer chapter. And usually, shorter chapters we'll just read straight through. Longer chapters we'll take a break in the middle. But if you click the pinned link, that should take you to chapter 91 there. Welcome, Raging Seagull. Okay. I'm going to do one quick hard refresh on the tipping queue, just to make sure I've thanked everybody, and then we are going to continue our reading. Do-do-do-do. Okay. Okay. He says, Monsieur, said the Guernseyman, in French, turning to his captain, that only yesterday his ship spoke a vessel whose captain and chief mate with 6 sailors had all died of a fever caught up from a blasted whale they had brought alongside. Upon this, the captain started, and eagerly desired to learn more. What now? Said the Guernsey man to Stubb. Why, since he takes it so easy, tell him that I now have eyed him carefully, and I am quite certain he's no more fit to command a whale ship than a St. Iago monkey. In fact, tell him that he's a baboon. He vows and declares, monsieur, that the other whale, the dried one, is far more deadly than the blasted one. In fine, monsieur, he conjures us, as we value our lives, to cut loose from these fish. Instantly, the captain ran forward, and in a loud voice commanded his crew to desist from hoisting the cutting tackles, and at once cast loose the cables and chains confining the whales to the ship. "What now?" said the Guernseyman, when the captain had returned to them. "Why, let me see. Yes, you may as well tell him now that, in fact, tell him that I've diddled him." And, aside to himself, "Perhaps somebody else." "He says, monsieur, that he's very happy to have been of any service to us." Hearing this, the captain vowed that they were the grateful parties, meaning himself and a mate, and concluded by inviting Stubb down into his cabins to drink a bottle of Bordeaux. "He wants you to take a glass of wine with him," said the interpreter. "Thank him heartily, but tell him it's against my principles to drink with the man I've diddled. In fact, tell him I must go." "He says, monsieur, that his principles won't admit of his drinking, but if monsieur wants to live another day to drink, then monsieur had best drop all 4 boats, pull the ship away from these whales, for it's so calm they won't drift." By this time, Stubb was over the side, and, getting into his boat, hailed the Guernseyman to this effect, that having a long tow line in his boat, he would do what he could to help them, by pulling out the lighter whale of the two from the ship's side. While the Frenchmen's boats then were engaged in towing the ship one way, Stubb benevolently towed away at his whale the other way, ostentatiously slacking out a most unusually long tow line. Presently, a breeze sprang up. Stubb feigned to cast off from the whale, hoisting his boats, and the Frenchman soon increased his distance, while the Pequod slid in between him and Stubb's whale. Whereupon, Stubb quickly pulled to the floating body, and, hailing the Pequod to give notice of his intentions, at once proceeded to reap the fruit of his unrighteous cunning. Seizing his sharp boat blade, he commenced an excavation in the body, a little behind the side fin. You would almost have thought he was digging a cellar there in the sea, and when at length his spade struck up against the gaunt ribs, it was like turning up rolled Roman tiles and pottery buried in fat English loam. His boat's crew were all in high excitement, eagerly helping their chief, and looking as anxious as gold hunters. And all this time, numberless fowls were diving and ducking and screaming and yelling and fighting around them. Stubb was beginning to look disappointed, especially as the horrible nosegay increased, when suddenly, from out the very heart of this plague, there stole a faint stream of perfume, which flowed through the tide of bad smells without being absorbed by it, as one river will flow into and then along with another, without at all blending with it for a time. "I have it! I have it!" cried Stubb, with delight, striking something in the subterranean region. "A purse! A purse!" Dropping his spade, he thrust both hands in and drew out handfuls of something that looked like ripe Windsor soap, or rich mottled old cheese, very unctuous and savory withal. You might easily dent it with your thumb. It is of a hue between yellow and ash color. And this, good friends, is ambergris, worth a guinea an ounce to any druggist. Some 6 handfuls were obtained, but more was unavoidably lost in the sea, and still more, perhaps, might have been secured were it not for impatient Ahab's loud command to Stubb to desist and come on board, else the ship would bid them goodbye. Now, you might want to know what Ambergris is as we conclude Chapter 91 of Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville, but I got good news for you folks. Chapter 92 is entitled Ambergris and is going to go all up in there. We're going to learn all about that next. So, before we do, though, I've got to go ahead and I've got to update the link to what chapter we're reading. So I'm going to go ahead and also we are going to need to go grab more gravel from throughout Hermit Homedal. Yeah, so that's the thing is Ishmael basically knows what you're about to Google next when you're reading this book. And he's like, don't worry, I've got a whole chapter on that coming up next. Also, probably the one after that's going to include some clarifications. I got you, fam. Replace pinned message here. Let's go grab some gravel from over here. Because I don't think we're going to use this gravel over here very much, if at all. Have we already cleared it? We've actually cleared out a lot of these. Shockingly effectively. It is good to know that there's more grass there if we need it, though. But yeah, any thoughts, questions, or concerns about Chapter 91? Boy, did we get all the gravel out of this one, too? Okay. It's not bad. I just, I'm shocked that we're actually, like, ahead of schedule on anything. Don't worry, Abby M. We're about to get to it. Okay. So let's get my hat on since the camera's getting bigger now. Okay. So I know for sure that we definitely left some gravel out this way. Ow! I can't believe we clipped that. I thought we'd clear that easily. Okay, before we continue reading, so we've already updated the chapter link. Just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. This is a viewer-supported stream. Welcome, Razor Randon. We were just finishing Chapter 91 of Moby Dick, or the Whale, by Herman Melville. Okay. Boy, this is not a very organized area. I really need to do some work on that. Is this one full of gravel? Nope. TCG cards, of course. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I knew I had some gravel over here somewhere. Yep. Okay, yeah, plenty of gravel here. Welcome, Glass Sand Pane. Imagine if Herman Melville and Victor Hugo wrote a book together. Hey, Razor Random, my day was awesome. I got a new sweater crop top that I'm actually wearing right now. It's chroma green, and so it keeps me warm. I can wear it over my tank top. The crop top stops here, but I'm wearing the regular tank top underneath it. So I'm like super warm now during streams. I love it. I'm ready for winter at last. Okay. So, where were we? We are putting in gravel kind of all throughout here. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes as much sense as anything else we do. Okay. So, chapter 92 is not a very long chapter. So we're going to jump right in on that after we do a quick refresh and make sure we haven't missed any tips. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, chapter 92, Ambergris. Chapter 92 of Moby Dick, or the Whale, by Herman Melville. Ambergris. I feel like the mic is further... Oh, the mic is further away because I was showing off the tank top. Or crop top. Okay, that's why. Yeah. Now, this ambergris is a very curious substance, and so important as an article of commerce that in 1791, a certain Nantucket-born Captain Coffin was examined at the bar of the English House of Commons on the subject. For at that time, and indeed until a comparatively late day, the precise origin of ambergris remained, like amber itself, a problem to the learned. Though the word ambergris is but the French compound for gray amber, yet the two substances are quite distinct. For amber, though at times found on the seacoast, is also dug up in some far inland soils, whereas ambergris is never found except upon the sea. Besides, amber is a hard, transparent, brittle, odorless substance, used for mouthpieces to pipes, for beads and ornaments, but ambergris is a soft, waxy, and so highly fragrant and spicy that it is largely used in perfumery. Froggies is asking about, the federal preliminary injunction. Sorry, I'll post that link real quick. Okay, cool. Hey, we got a new Patreon patron as well. Thank you very much. I will send you your invite in the next 24 hours. Those are sent manually, not by a machine, because the Patreon Discord API is not reliable, and I do not rely on it. Okay, sorry, I know I said we don't normally interrupt in the middle of a shorter chapter, but we just got two things rolling in at once. So, yeah, let me roll forward. Okay. And so highly fragrant and spicy that it is largely used in perfumery, in pastilles, precious candles, hair powders, and pomatum. The Turks use it in cooking, and also carry it to Mecca for the same purpose that frankincense is carried to St. Peter's in Rome. Some wine merchants drop a few grains into claret to flavor it. Who would think, then, that such fine ladies and gentlemen should regale themselves with an essence found in the inglorious bowels of a sick whale? Yet so it is. By some, ambergris is supposed to be the cause, and by others the effect, of the dyspepsia of the whale. How to cure such a dyspepsia, it were hard to say, unless by administering 3 or 4 boatloads of Brandreth's pills, and then running out of harm's way, as laborers do when blasting rocks. I have forgotten to say that there were found in this ambergris certain hard, round, bony plates, which at first Stubb thought might be sailors' trouser buttons, but afterwards turned out that they were nothing more than pieces of small squid bones embalmed in that manner. Now that the incorruption of this most fragrant ambergris should be found in the heart of such decay, is this nothing? Bethink thee of that saying of St. Paul in Corinthians about corruption and incorruption, how that we are sown in dishonor, but raised in glory. And likewise call to mind that saying of Paracelsus about what it is that maketh the best musk. Also, forget not the strange fact that of all things of ill savor, cologne water in its rudimental manufacturing stages, is the worst. I should like to conclude the chapter with the above appeal, but cannot, owing to my anxiety to repel a charge often made against whalesmen, and which, in the estimation of some already biased minds, might be considered as indirectly substantiated by what has been said of the Frenchman's 2 whales. Elsewhere in this volume, the slanderous aspersion has been disproved that the vocation of whaling is throughout a slatternly, untidy business. But there is another thing to rebut. They hint that all whales always smell bad. Now, how did this odious stigma originate? I opine that it is plainly traceable to the first arrival of the Greenland whaling ships in London more than 2 centuries ago. Because those whalemen did not then, and do not now, try out their oil at sea as the southern ships have always done, but cutting up the fresh blubber in small bits, thrust it through the bungholes of large casks, and carry it home in that manner, the shortness of the season in those icy seas, and the sudden and violent storms to which they are exposed forbidden any other course. The consequence is that upon breaking into the hold and unloading one of those whale cemeteries in the Greenland dock, a savor is given forth, somewhat similar to that arising from excavating an old city graveyard for the foundations of a lying-in hospital. I partly surmise also that this wicked charge against whalers may be likewise imputed to the existence on the coast of Greenland in former times of a Dutch village called Schmerenberg, or Schmierenberg, which latter name is the one used by the learned Fogo von Slock in his great work on smells, a textbook on the subject. As its name imports, smear, meaning fat, berg, to put up, this village was founded in order to afford a place for the blubber of the Dutch whale fleet to be tried out without being taken home to Holland for that purpose. It was a collection of furnaces, fat kettles, and oil sheds, and when the works were in full operation, certainly gave forth no very pleasant savor. But all this is quite different with a South Sea sperm whaler, which in a voyage of 4 years perhaps, after completely filling her hold with oil, does not perhaps consume 50 days in the business of boiling out, and in the state that it is cast, the oil is nearly scentless. The truth is that living or dead, if but decently treated, whales as a species are by no means creatures of ill odor, nor can whalemen be recognized Wow. Okay, yeah, this part is acknowledging racism, but it's saying it's flawed. So I'm gonna, yeah. Okay. So this is a culturally important work from the past, and in general, I think that Melville is trying to... He generally makes the case that white Christians aren't better than anybody else just because they're white and Christian, but the way he says it sometimes doesn't always come across great. And so a little disclaimer there that this is one of those, like, okay, I have to think about this, but I think what he's saying is fine, and I'm going to read it out loud. The truth is that living or dead, if decently treated, whales as a species are by no means creatures of ill odor, nor can whalemen be recognized as the people of the Middle Ages affected to detect a Jew in their company by the nose. Nor, indeed, can the whale be possibly other than fragrant, when, as a general thing, he enjoys such high health, taking abundance of exercise, always out of doors, though it is true seldom in the open air. I say that the motion of a sperm whale's flukes above the water dispenses a perfume, as when a musk-scented lady rustles her dress in a warm parlor. What then shall I liken the sperm whale to for fragrance, considering his magnitude? Must it not be to the famous elephant with jeweled tusks and redolent with myrrh, which was led out of an Indian town to do honor to Alexander the Great? And that concludes chapter 92 of Moby Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville. So yeah, welcome one and all. Evening, NJ, who just rolled in. Captain Coffin, Centauratron says, there's a vampire name if I ever heard of one. Glass and Pain says, Joe, I missed a spot. Did I? Probably. I mean, we'll come back and look at all this later. But I mean, we're on the whole making fairly redonkulous progress. Yeah, and so I'm looking at this. We're definitely going to need to bring this in some part way here. Okay. Okay. So chapter 93 is called The Castaway. And it doesn't look too long. Let's go ahead and remind everyone, we are $10 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. And tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. NJ, I got a new sweater. I can show it off later when we get another face camera expansion. Because people have already seen it this size. So I want to show it off when we get larger. But I think you'll like it. NJ says, we just finished putting up our other bookcase, finally sitting for a few. Oh, nice. Yeah, we've been doing a lot. I have spent so much time on ladders today. I have been mounting hooks around different corners of the living room to get a bunch of Christmas decorations up. So yeah, it's nice to actually sit down. I get it. And Jay says, let me see. I'll show you when the camera gets bigger. I just said that. Oh, I found the spot I missed. There we go. Yay. We actually probably should take these gravel boxes to go gather gravel while we're between chapters, because that is actually a solid inventory management task. We're going to put these other ones here and grab these and head back that way. Bum 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 ba da 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 bum 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 ba da. I should probably get these orange lights all turned red and green or something too. Let's make sure I didn't miss any gravel up here. A lot of dirt and stone. Plenty of grass. I was worried we might run out of grass, but this is actually reassuring. We still have plenty of that. Okay, here's some gravel. Okay, can we grab any more? Any more gravel about here? A lot of snow, a lot of dirt, a lot of grass. Yeah, that's just stone. Okay, we've looked at all of them. Let's keep moving. Have a good one, Eric. Catch you later. Okay. Hey, we got a tip rolling in from Odd, who says, let's see the sweater again. Thank you very much, Odd. That's going to get us evenly to our next face camera expansion. Odd got us evenly to our next face camera expansion milestone. Here we go. Expand Joe. Do. Okay, NJ. So, I'm actually wearing the sweater right now. It perfectly fits over my tank top. It's a chroma green crop top sweater. I am perfectly warm. It's amazing. And as a treat, since we just hit the expansion milestone, let me go ahead and disable the chroma key. Ta-da! You can see it cuts off right here. Isn't that great? Do a little spin. Okay. Yeah, we got that at Goodwill today. So very excited about that. Okay. It is perfect because everything else I have changes how I look so much visually during the stream that I find it distracting. Like, I like the butterfly blanket. It's cute, but like it's clearly its own whole thing, right? Whereas with the crop top sweater, it's like, oh, nope. Just looks like I got a tank top on. Yay. Next problem. Pepper Basenji says, no more butterfly blanket. Oh, no, I'm not saying no more butterfly blanket ever. We will definitely have days where it's cold enough I'm going to need both. Believe me. Tennessee can get cold in February and January. But for like... There's a lot of days where this will be enough. How about the giant plushy bear? Well, I'm trying to get rid of that. Hi, Badger. Let me know if you want your mic on at any point. Okay. So we've got more gravel. I think we got most of the from these boxes anyway. Oh, yep, there's a whole nother box right there, though. Have I been hydrating with the not moonshine cup? No. To save money, we don't actually have any liquor in the house right now, or moonshine. Gotta save for those Christmas treats. But Barbie's little sister, hi! That's Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. Glad you could join us. No, this is just Sundrop. No moonshine. Sorry. So, yeah, no jar to drink out of. But I don't. It's not. The jar doesn't say not moonshine. I think it says probably moonshine. But yeah, the plan was to drink out of that during the Moby Dick streams as often as possible. But financially, that's not going to necessarily be very often. Welcome back, Glass and Pain. We need to lay our head down and dream right now before it gets dark. Somebody says 1832 to 1833 is about when the bed switches over. Yep, there was, right? Yeah, 1832 to 1833. Bum, 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 bum. But yeah, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay. We are 20 even away from the next expansion milestone and the entrance of the Joust. We need to update our What We're Reading link to point to chapter 93, The Castaway. But yeah, Kelly, I hope you're having a good Saturday evening. We are reading Moby Dick here, as we often do on Saturday night. Okay. Yeah, my beard still isn't as soft as I would like. I'm gonna... Hey, my Steam gift has been accepted. Badger Spinner's about to play Euro Truck Simulator Greece, apparently.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Barbie's little sister is having a great evening. I graduated yesterday. Hey, congratulations! do you have any plans about what you're going to be up to next? I'm also realizing I probably should have not put all that away because I needed the gravel. What was I thinking? It's okay if you don't want to share publicly what you're doing next, but I'm just curious. Sending out a lot of audition tapes. Awesome. Well, good luck. Hope you find something soon. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Okay, yeah, we have enough, to do that. I probably should encapsulate this one. Oh my gosh. Getting the sleepy voice. Yeah, let's maybe get some andesite here to encapsulate this water a bit, just as a treat. There we go. What is that flowing noise? Oh, okay, yeah, I was gonna say, it should have stopped by now. Cool. So, here we go. Chapter 93 of Moby Dick, or the whale. I can't lean in with my eyes closed because I hit the thing. Okay, that was not super professional. That's fine. By Herman Melville. I was gonna say take one, but we're not doing takes. This is just, we're doing it live. It was but some few days after encountering the Frenchman that a most significant event befell the most insignificant of the Pequod's crew, an event most lamentable, and which ended in providing the sometimes madly merry and predestinated craft with a living and ever-accompanying prophecy of whatever shattered sequel might prove her own. Now, in the whale ship, it is not everyone that goes in the boats. Some few hands are reserved, called ship keepers, whose province it is to work the vessel while the boats are pursuing the whale. As a general thing, these ship keepers are as hardy fellows as the men comprising the boat's crews, but if there happen to be an unduly slender, clumsy, or timorous wight in the ship, that wight is certain to be made a ship keeper. It was so in the Pequod with the little boy Pippin by nickname, Pip by abbreviation. Poor Pip, ye have heard of him before. Ye must remember his tambourine on that midnight so gloomy jolly. In outer aspect, Pip and Doughboy made a match, like a black pony and a white one, of equal developments, though of dissimilar color, driven in one eccentric span. But while hapless Doughboy was by nature dull and torpid in his intellects, Pip, though over-tender-hearted, was at bottom very bright, and with that pleasant, genial, jolly brightness peculiar to his tribe, a tribe which ever enjoys all holidays and festivals with finer, freer relish than any other race. Okay, so this is about to get questionable. Well, not questionably. This is okay. So he's about to make a lot of generalizations about Africans here. That's not great. Let me read ahead on this for a minute, because yeah, I didn't pre-read this chapter. Like I said previously, in general, Melville has used this book to argue from the point of view of Ishmael, a white Protestant, that white Protestants or white Christians aren't necessarily as better than everyone else as they all seem to think. And that's one of the things that Ishmael likes about traveling on ships. And so, like, the author's one of the themes that recurs throughout the book is that all peoples are interesting and excellent, and that, you know, brilliance or valor are not not only the purview of the white Christian or the white Protestant. However, Melville, being a writer in the 1850s, is gonna not necessarily always express this in a way that is the most modern. So let me just read ahead for a minute and figure out how much of this chapter is going to get read aloud. Like, okay, so he's going to make some generalizations about Africans that I'm going to skip. But then he chides the reader for smiling. He's like, about calling Pip brilliant. And he's now going to be, okay. Don't smile so while I write that this little African was brilliant. Wow, okay, but the thing is, all the ways he's trying to explain this in metaphor are also super racist. At least by today's standards. And like, I mean, they weren't great back then either, but, like, he's using the parlance of the time period to try to make a point. That Africans can be just as smart as anybody else, and if you can't see that, then that's your own ignorance. But the metaphors he's using are not great. This might be... We've never skipped an entire chapter before. Yeah, a fun chapter to try and read while I play a game. Okay, let's stand still for a minute. I'm seeing how far I can skip Wandering Mask, or how far I need to skip. Okay, well... Basically, Melville tries to say a lot of really nice things about how smart and talented Pip is, but does so in a way that's... comes across as... using, there's a lot of assumptions in there that he's trying to fight by using clever wordplay that ends up being racist. So we're gonna skip all that part. Red Velvet Rabbit, when I initially skimmed that, I thought there was an L in there, and I was like, wow, okay, no, you're good, okay. No, but a backhanded compliment would be, is like you trying to say something that doesn't sound like a compliment, but it is. This is him trying to say something as a compliment, but he's using poetic language to appeal to the people of the era while referencing certain preconceptions about Africans. The whole thing is a mess. This is why a lot of people this is why some schools don't even bother with books like this. Because it's just like, you get to some of this and you're just like, oh, come on. Okay. Also, NJ says, hi, Badger. Okay. So after all of this, I think we're getting to the actual action. He's been trying to explain that Pip is really smart and an amazingly he's smart, he's got a great attitude, people love hanging out with him, he's a great musician, he's a valued member of the crew. And that's the summary of the other thing. Okay. And then Melville says, "But let us to the story. It came to pass that in the Ambergris affair, Stubbs, after oarsman, chanced so to sprain his hand, as for a time to become quite maimed, and temporarily Pip was put into his place. The first time Stubb lowered with him, Pip evinced much nervousness, but happily for that time escaped close contact with the whale, and therefore came off not altogether discreditably, though Stubb, observing him, took care afterwards to exhort him to cherish his courageousness to the utmost, for he might often find it needful. Now, upon the second lowering, the boat paddled upon the whale, and as the fish received the darted iron, it gave its customary rap, which happened, in this instance, to be right under poor Pip's seat. The involuntary consternation of the moment caused him to leap, paddle in hand, out of the boat, and in such a way that part of the slack whale line coming against his chest, he breasted it overboard with him, so as to become entangled in it, when at last plumping into the water. That instant the stricken whale started on a fierce run, the line swiftly straightened, and presto! Pip came all foaming up to the chocks of the boat, remorselessly dragged there by the line, which had taken several turns around his chest and neck. Tashtego stood in the bows. He was full of the fire of the hunt. He hated Pip for a poltroon. Snatching the boat knife from its sheath, he suspended its sharp edge over the line, and turning towards Stubb, exclaimed interrogatively, "Cut." Meantime, Pip's pale, blue-choked face plainly looked, "Do! For God's sake!" All passed in a flash. In less than half a minute, the entire thing happened. "Damn him, cut!" roared Stubb. And so, the whale was lost, and Pip was saved. So soon as he recovered himself, the poor little kid was assailed by yells and execrations from the crew. Tranquility permitting these irregular cursings to evaporate, Stubb then, in a plain, businesslike, but still half-humorous manner, cursed Pip officially, and, that done, unofficially, gave him much wholesome advice. The substance was, "Never jump from a boat, Pip. Except..." But all the rest was indefinite, as the soundest advice ever is. Now, in general, stick to the boat is your true motto in whaling, but cases will sometimes happen when leap from the boat is still better. Moreover, as if perceiving at last that if he should give undiluted conscientious advice to Pip, he would be leaving him too wide a margin to jump in the future, Stubb suddenly dropped all advice and concluded with the peremptory demand, "Stick to the boat, Pip, or by the Lord I won't pick you up if you jump, mind that. We can't afford to lose whales by the likes of you. A whale. Oh boy, that's not great." Wow. That is terrible. So we're going to skip that bit. Bear that in mind and don't jump anymore. Hereby perhaps Stubb indirectly hinted that though man loved his fellows, yet man is a money-making animal, which propensity too often interferes with his benevolence. But we are all in the hands of the gods. And Pip jumped again. It was under very similar circumstances to the first performance, but this time he did not breast out the line, and hence, when the whale started to run, Pip was left behind on the sea, like a hurried traveler's trunk. Alas, Stubb was but too true to his word. It was a beautiful, bounteous blue day, the spangled sea calm and cool, and flatly stretching away all round to the horizon like gold Peter's skin hammered out to the extremist. Bobbing up and down in the sea, Pip's head showed like a head of cloves. No boat knife was lifted when he fell so rapidly astern. Stubbs' inexorable back was turned upon him, and the whale was winged. In 3 minutes, a whole mile of shoreless ocean was between Pip and Stubb. Out from the center of the sea, Poor turned his head to the sun, another lonely castaway, though the loftiest and the brightest. Now, in calm weather, to swim in the open ocean is as easy to the practiced swimmer as to ride a spring carriage ashore. But the awful lonesomeness is intolerable. The intense concentration of self in the middle of such heartless immensity, my God, who can tell it? Mark how when sailors in a dead calm bathe in the open sea, mark how they closely hug their ship and only coast along her sides. But had Stubb really abandoned the poor kid to his fate? No, he didn't mean to, at least. Because there were 2 boats in his wake, and he supposed, no doubt, they would of course come up to Pip very quickly and pick him up. Though, indeed, such considerations towards oarsmen jeopardized through their own timidity is not always manifested by the hunters in all similar instances, and such instances not unfrequently occur. Almost invariably in the fishery, a coward, so-called, is marked with the same ruthless detestation peculiar to military navies and armies. But it so happened that those boats, without seeing Pip, suddenly spying whales close to them on one side, turned and gave chase. And Stubbs's boat was now so very far away, he and his crew so intent upon the fish, that Pip's ringed horizon began to expand around him miserably. By the merest chance, the ship itself at last rescued him. But from that hour, the poor kid went around the deck an idiot. Such at least they said he was. The sea had jeeringly kept his finite body up, but downed the infinite of his soul. Not downed entirely, though. Rather carried down alive to wondrous depths, where strange shapes of the unwarped primal world glided to and fro before his passive eyes, and the miser merman wisdom revealed in his hoarded heaps, and among the joyous, heartless, ever-juvenile eternities. Pip saw the multitudinous God, omnipresent coral insects that out of the filament of waters heaved out colossal orbs. He saw God's foot upon the treadle of the loom, and spoke it, and therefore his shipmates called him mad. So man's insanity is heaven's sense, and wandering from all mortal reason, man comes at last to that celestial thought, which is to reason, is absurd and frantic, and weal or woe feels then uncompromised, indifferent as his God. For the rest, blame Stubb not too hardly. The thing is common in the fishery, and in the sequel of the narrative, it will be seen what like abandonment befell myself. And that concludes chapter 93 of Moby Dick, or the Whale, by Herman Melville. Yeah, so that chapter sucked. That was, like, yeah. Poor Pip, you know? You know, he takes a, you know, like him and Doughboy are both pretty young. I think they're supposed to be like 12 or 13, you know? As, you know, and so like they're not, you know, like supposed to be going out in the boats. That wasn't the plan. They're there to like help the chef serve. They bring out food, right? You know, they're galley hands, and like getting thrust into this situation without the proper training, you know, is just like absolutely brutal. And so I kind of feel like, but yeah, this is one of those things too where like Melville, he, like I said, I think he genuinely means well. You know, he has to open this chapter by saying all these things about how great Pip is, and saying that people who don't think that people from Africa can, or people who are descended from Africans can be so great, are ignorant, because he's worried that readers of the era won't see any tragedy in a poor black kid being left out in the sun on the ocean for hours and going mad. He's worried his audience wouldn't see this as a person, and so that's why he had to spend so much time at the beginning of the chapter trying to set that up, because he's worried that this will not land. Which, I mean, when you're stuck in the middle of the ocean, land will not. Okay, yes. But you see what I mean? So yeah, this is a miserable chapter, not just because of the stuff I had to skip at the beginning, where Melville's trying to explain why people shouldn't be racist while sounding incredibly racist, but also because it's sad what happens to Pip. And you know, this is a story about a doomed voyage, you know, and it's not necessarily gonna be the sort of story where everything good happens to everyone all the time, because that's not really what a doomed voyage means. So yeah, this is a very sad chapter in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's oh, that sucks. Being sent out like that at that age, like yep. So, anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns about that chapter? Sorry, I know that was kind of a downer. It's more fun to talk about the funny chapters, but, you know, it's literature. It's not all fun and games. Wandering Mass says, I appreciate you how you try to handle the material in these scenes, actually talking about and analyzing it while pointing out the screwed up parts. Red Velvet Rabbit says, my concern is I'm now sad. Yeah. Well, there's only so much I can do about that. We can try barreling forward into the next chapter. Chalice Puma Sway says, well, we knew the story was going to have those moments. I appreciate the forethought. Yep, so that was chapter 93. So chapter 94 is a squeeze of the hand. Let me go ahead and get the what we're reading thing set up, because we're 25 minutes from the end of the stream. Let me see if this is a super long chapter. It's not a super long chapter. Arizona Rose, Horizon Rose says, difficult to find a classic novel that doesn't have problematic views based on when it's reading. Yeah, or based on when it was written. Yeah, very true. Place pin message. Okay, so we've put that stone in there for now. So, chapter 94, A Squeeze of the Hand. Let's also remind people this is a viewer-supported stream, and we are $20 away from the entrance of the Jost. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. The Whale of Stubbs's, so dearly purchased, was duly brought to the Pequod's side, where all those cutting and hoisting operations previously detailed were regularly gone through, even to the bailing of the Heidelberg tun or case. While some were occupied with this latter duty, others were engaged in dragging away the larger tubs, so as soon filled with the sperm, and when the proper time arrived, this same sperm was carefully manipulated ere going to the try-works, of which anon. It had cooled and crystallized to such a degree that when, with several others, I sat down before a large Constantine's bath of it, I found it strangely concreted into lumps, here and there rolling about in the liquid part. It was our business to squeeze the lumps back into fluid, a sweet and unctuous duty. No wonder that in old times this sperm was such a favorite cosmetic, such a clearer, such a sweetener, such a softener, such a delicious mollifier. After having my hands on it, or in it for only a few minutes, my fingers felt like eels, and began, as it were, to serpentine and spiralize. As I sat there at my ease, cross-legged on the deck, after the bitter exertion at the windlass, under a blue, tranquil sky, the ship under indolent sail, and gliding so serenely along as I bathed my hands among those soft, gentle globules of infiltrated tissues, woven almost within the hour, as they richly broke to my fingers, and discharged all their opulence, like fully ripe grapes, their wine, as I snuffed up that uncontaminated aroma, literally and truly like the smell of spring violets. I declare to you that for the time I lived as in a musky meadow, I forgot all about our horrible oath. I almost began to credit the old Paracelsian superstition that sperm is of rare value in allaying the heat of anger. While bathing in that bath, I felt divinely free from all ill will, or petulance, or malice of any sort whatsoever. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. All morning long I squeezed that sperm till I myself almost melted into it. I squeezed that sperm till a strange sort of insanity came over me, and I found myself unwittingly squeezing my co-laborers' hands in it, mistaking their hands for the gentle globules. Such an abounding, affectionate, friendly, loving feeling did this avocation beget, that at last I was continually squeezing their hands and looking up into their eyes sentimentally, as much to say, "Oh, my dear fellow beings, why should we longer cherish any social acerbities, or know the slightest ill humor or envy? Come, let us squeeze hands all round. Nay, let us squeeze ourselves into each other. Let us squeeze ourselves universally into the very milk and sperm of kindness." Would that I could keep squeezing that sperm. This is getting... Oh, boy. For now, since many prolonged repeated experiences, I have perceived that in all cases, a man must eventually lower or at least shift his conceit of attainable felicity, not placing it anywhere in the intellect or the fancy, but in the wife, the heart, the bed, the table, the saddle, the fireside, the country. Now that I have perceived all of this, I am ready to squeeze case eternally. In thoughts of the visions of the night, I saw long rows of angels in paradise, each with his hands in a jar of spermaceti. Now, while discoursing of sperm, it behooves to speak of other things akin to it in the business of preparing the sperm whale for the try-works. First comes the white horse, so called, which is obtained from the tapering part of the fish, and also from the thicker portions of his flukes. It is tough with congealed tendons. A wad of muscle, but still contains some oil. After being severed from the whale, the white horse is first cut into portable oblongs ere going to the mincer. They look much like blocks of Berkshire marble. Plum pudding is the term bestowed upon certain fragmentary parts of the whale's flesh, being here and there adhering to the blanket of blubber, and often participating to a considerable degree in its unctuousness. It is most refreshing and convivial, a beautiful object to behold. As its name imports, it is exceedingly rich, mottled tint, with a bestreaked snowy and golden ground, dotted with spots of the deepest crimson and purple. It is plums and rubies in pictures of citron. Spite of reason, it is hard to keep yourself from eating it. I confess that once I stole behind to the foremast to try it. It tasted something as I should conceive a royal cutlet from the thigh of Louis de Gros might have tasted, supposing him to have been killed the first day after venison season, and that particular venison season contemporary with an unusually fine vintage of the vineyards of Champagne. There is another substance, and a very singular one, which turns up in the course of this business, but which I feel to be very puzzling adequately to describe. It is called Slobgolian, an appellation original to the whaleman, and even so is the nature of the substance. It is an ineffably oozy, stringy affair, most frequently found in the tubs of sperm after a prolonged squeezing and subsequent decanting. I hold it to be wondrously thin, ruptured membranes of the case coalescing. Gurry, so it is called, is a term properly belonging to the right whaleman, but sometimes incidentally used by the sperm fishermen. It designates the dark glutinous substance which is scraped off the back of the Greenland or right whale, and much of which covers the decks of those inferior souls that hunt the ignoble Leviathan. Nippers. Strictly, this word is not indigenous to the whale's vocabulary, but as applied by the whaleman, it becomes so. A whaleman's nipper is a short, firm strip of tendinous stuff cut from the tapering part of the Leviathan's tail. It averages an inch in thickness, and for the rest is about the size of the iron part of a hoe. Edgewise moved along the oily deck, it operates like a leathern squeegee by nameless blandishments, as of magic, allures along with all impurities. But to learn all about these recondite manners, your best way is at once to descend into the blubber room and have a long talk with its inmates. This place has been previously mentioned as the receptacle for the blanket pieces when stripped and hoisted from the whale. When the proper time arrives for cutting up its contents, this apartment is a scene of terror to all tyros, especially in the night. On one side, lit by a dull lantern, a space has been left clear for the workmen. They generally go in pairs, a pike and gaffman and a spademan. The whaling pike is similar to a frigate boarding weapon of the same name. The gaff is something like a boat hook. With the gaffman hooks onto a sheet of blubber and strives to hold it from slipping as the ship pitches and lurches about. Meanwhile, the spadesman stands on the sheet itself, perpendicularly chopping it into portable horse pieces. The spade is sharp as hone can make it. The spadesman's feet are shoeless. The thing he stands on will sometimes irresistibly slide away from him, like a sledge. If he cuts off one of his own toes, or one of his assistants, would you be very much astonished? Toes are scarce amongst veteran blubber room men. And that concludes chapter 94 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Hopefully, Red Velvet Rabbit, that put you in a better mood. Just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Miss Gold Fox says, man, his chapters are all over the place. Draco Leech says, the comments on this video are going to be interesting. Wandering Mess says, I got distracted by trying to look up the word Slobgolian. Yeah. Philodox says, gaff hooks are terrifying. Zen Filament Figment says, Google claims that squeegee was made up in the mid-18th century as a nautical term. Well, this was written in the 1850s. Centauratron says, this chapter is reason, too, that they don't read this in schools anymore. So there you go. A little bit of a tonal whiplash there. Why can't we all just hold hands and get along? Asks Ishmael. In a bizarre context. What's so crazy about peace, love, and understanding? Red Velvet Rabbit says the total whiplash has gotten me messed up. Yeah, I'm realizing I should probably be using resin, maybe, to get rid of this water. Or sponges, I guess, should work, but... we have extra dirt. Yeah, let's use the excess dirt here. So any questions, concerns, or comments about that chapter? Once again, I read this book, like, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and I don't remember all the details since then. I'm rereading it now as we go. I'm not necessarily pre-reading most of the chapters. Unless I, like, sometimes I'll end a stream by going, oh boy, I just looked at the beginning of the next chapter. I'm going to look at that between now and the next one. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not really pre-reading as much of this as might be wise. So, yeah. Kai Ferem says, I'm going to be laughing about this chapter for the next several days. Well, there you go. Sailor's Port says this chapter is like a total 360 from the last. I know, right? I should really encase this. What's so crazy about peace, love, and understanding? John Plays says, are we still reading? We just finished chapter 94. I haven't looked at the clock yet. We've only got 10 minutes left, so I don't think we have time to read another chapter. But, we will go ahead and accept tips. I should probably do last call for tips. Let me see if this... Okay, first off, we're going to see if we can race B-Dubs to bed. B-Dubs is still online. There we go. Chapter 95, the Cassock, is next. And I'm going to see if this next one is... So the next chapter is actually very short. But then the chapter after that is linked to it, and that is not a short chapter. Yeah, the next few chapters are all kind of linked. And so we're not going to want to read the next one. Grayson Grange says, I would definitely pay to listen to you read audiobooks. The thing is, though, if I was reading audiobooks, I don't get to give the commentary or contextualize things the way that we... Like, I'm kind of reading these to you guys the way I would read a book out loud if I was a teacher or to my kid or, you know what I mean? Whereas audiobooks are not supposed to be editorial. You know, they're just a reading, you know? So this is something different. But yeah, we are $20 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. I said I was going to do last call for tips, and then I got distracted and never actually posted the link. So there is the link. If you would like to support the arts and my work in particular, y'all are what make this possible. Yeah. Wandering Mass says, I think your editorialization has massively improved this book for me. I'm glad. I feel like the book has a lot of merit, but it's hard to get into. You know? There's a lot in this book, obviously. Some would argue more than there needs to be, which is why there's so many shortened versions of it. But once again, I don't feel like abridged Moby Dick is necessarily a good way to read Moby Dick. I think the story works best when told with Ishmael's wild rambles in there, you know? I feel like that's a big part of what makes this book worth reading, is how off the wall, like, 75% of this book is not about the action. It's about whatever. And that's the 75% that makes the book most worth reading from a modern standpoint. You can go watch VeggieTales' Story of Jonah if you just want to watch a movie about somebody with a whale. You know, we've got all these modern contrivances now. You don't need this. The digression might not have been the plot all along, but the digressions are what make the book relevant in a modern context. The way he tells the story through digression is very Wikipedia forum posting, modern communication style. Yazi, we always do the Christmas Carol regardless of what else we're reading, because the Christmas Carol is the days leading up to Christmas. It's not just Saturdays. But I've just got the details of my daughter's flights today. So I haven't had time yet to schedule the the Christmas Carol streams. Because I couldn't do that until I knew exactly when her flights were. But yeah, we're definitely doing a Christmas Carol again this year. Okay. Okay, let's get this going here. Yazzie Wolf said, I look forward to you reading Christmas Carol. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it too. We actually mined out a good portion of this future lake here. Okay, that's good. La da na 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 da 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 na na da da na da da na bum bum ba da 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 bum do 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 Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put these here. Da, 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 da. Oh boy, that pickaxe is actually about to go, huh? Yazzie Wolf says, you make the story really come alive. Thank you. Class and Pain says, I'm looking forward to A Christmas Carol too. Excellent. Yeah, it's good to make a ghost story come alive, I guess. Or maybe it's not. Who can say? Da, na, na, na. Da, na, na, na. Bum, 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 bum. Hey, we got a tip rolling in. Let's see who it's from. It's from Lance. Thank you very much, Lance. That's going to get us now 15 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. Okay, what else we got to do? We got to swap out the pickaxe. We got to pick up the stone that we left lying around. We leave any stone lying around over here? If we did, it's already timed out. Okay. Okay. Unsorted stuff. Boom, 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 boom. Oh boy, we picked up some cobblestone stairs by accident. That's a problem for later. Yeah, we're really gonna want to get those torches at some point. Okay, yeah, we can put this gravel back in here for now. We can put this andesite back in here. Brr, brr, brr. Okay, yeah. Smooth operator, durability is problematic. This is going to look so much better once this lake is in, though. I just know it. Okay. So what we need to do is swap out that pick. One pick for another. I'm going to place it. Replace it, replace it, replace it, replace it. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Okay. I've also got all these little zip ties that I got out for doing stuff with the Christmas lights, and then I never used. They've just been poking me in my side this whole time, and I'm finally like, now that we're wrapping up the stream, I should do something about whatever's poking me in the leg. Oh, good. It's a pocket full of zip ties. Problem solved. Why don't I solve these things when they first start bothering me? I'm just like, I could have done that at any time. It's fine. It wasn't like bothering me that much, but it was just one of those like, it's fine. I have a lot going on. Okay. Oh, sleep, sleep, sleep. Do, sleep, sleep, sleep. Do. Okay, so it's like 18:32 and change. So we need to like start clicking as fast as possible, like right now. Let's see if we got it. Yeah. Went to sleep. Say goodnight. Okay, speaking of saying goodnight, I was going to play the outro music, but then I realized that we get a copyright struck, and then we'd have to reread those chapters, which we're not doing. Welcome, Merlup. So instead, I'm going to see who we can raid. It's... Why don't we go ahead and raid Evil Notion, who says, live from Michigan, it's Saturday Night Jackbox. Now, this is not going to be a family-friendly stream when you get over there. However, I'd like to point out that, what do you call it? Yeah, this wasn't exactly the most family-friendly set of chapters of Moby Dick, so you'll probably be fine. Wow, I don't normally look at the viewership numbers. 89 people actually stuck around through that much Moby Dick. Wow. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for everybody hanging out. Sorry that these were kind of weird chapters. Hope you had fun. But yeah, when you get over there, our raid message for Evil Notion is howdy y'all, Joe Hills right here. Anyway, until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring. Stop streaming.